Well, welcome everybody. My name is Angela, and this is the Getting Started with Mylio Photos webinar. Today, we're going to be covering some of the basics around Mylio Photos. We're going to talk about what the program does, how to create an account, getting everything installed and set up correctly, how to add photos, how to sync and access your photos from all of your devices, browse your library, and where you can go to learn more. So as I said, my name is Angela. I'm a product evangelist for Mylio. What that means is I do a lot of our education and documentation, and my goal is to help you be successful with our software. I'm also a fine art photographer and photo educator. And today I'm joined by my co-host, Lori Rubin. She's also a Mylio product evangelist, photographer, and educator. Lori, did you want to say hello real quick?
Yes, hello everyone and welcome. This is going to be a wonderful experience with Angela, who is the pro at this software. So you're in good hands.
Thanks, Lori. All right, got a couple of things to cover before we jump into the presentation. If you have questions as we're going through, Lori's going to be monitoring the chat and the Q&A. If you have specific questions, the Q&A is the best place to put that because it lets us track the questions and make sure that they get answered. Sometimes things get lost in the chat, but you're welcome to use that as well. I'd also like to get to know you a little bit better and find out what your experience is so far with Mylio. So let me go ahead and launch this poll. There we go. And it's just 2 short questions and lets me know how long you've been using the program and if there's anything specific that you need help with. So take a second, go ahead and put your answers into that poll, and then we will move on and jump into learning about how to set up Mylio Photos. Give that just a moment, let people get their answers in. Awesome. Fantastic. Good deal. Oh, it looks like there's some people that are using the free trial and in their first 6 months of using the software. Wonderful. Well, you're in the right place to go ahead and get those first steps in order. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Give you guys a chance there to see what the results were if you were interested. And now let's go ahead and move on. If for some reason you can't stick around for the entire presentation today, we are recording. And if you want to go ahead and watch that recording at any time, you can go to community.mylio.com and under topics, go to webinars, and you'll be able to find all of our recorded webinars there. There's also a section for the Getting Started webinars, and you can find the most recent webinar there as well as resources that we talk about at the end of the show. All right, so let's jump in and talk about Mylio Photos. Well, what is it? It's an application that lets you, an everyday photographer, access your entire lifetime of memories in a secure and connected library. What that does is Mylio turns your computers, phones, all of your devices into a system for managing your lifetime of photos and videos. With our app, you can access any of those photos from all of your devices from our app. It's so cool the way it works, and it'll really change the way that you interact with your photos. It also makes things a lot easier to find when you need them. So some of the things that you can do with our application is you can access even the largest photo library on a laptop or phone that has a smaller hard drive. We've got great search, everything from facial recognition, text recognition. It makes use of all of your GPS and camera data. So lots of different information is brought into the program to help you find those images when you need them. We've got great built-in editing tools, and we also work with external editors. So if you're somebody who, like me, who loves creative photo editing and you like using a bunch of different applications, Mylio Photos works great with those applications and really opens up a world of creativity for you. You have the ability to access your entire library without needing an internet connection, and cloud is optional. So if you don't want to pay cloud data fees, you don't have to. And then Mylio Photos also has mechanisms in place to help protect your photos and keep them backed up and safe so you don't lose them from a device failure or loss. So what we want to make sure what happens there is your pictures are backed up and in multiple locations. So that way, if your phone drops in a lake or your laptop gets stolen at the coffee shop, you have your images backed up and secure on devices that you control in other places that you can always access and rebuild your library from, because there's nothing worse than losing those precious memories. All right, so when you're ready to get started with Mylio Photos, the first thing you're going to need to do is create a Mylio account. Well, why do you need an account? It's because Mylio Photos is both an application and a service. The application is what you download to your computer, to your phone, and so forth, that lets you browse and look through your pictures. The service aspect is what allows those devices to talk together. So what happens when you log into your Mylio account, it goes to our servers and it says, hey, does this user have any of their other devices online? And if your computer sees your phone, it creates a secure connection between those two devices and lets them talk directly to each other. Your pictures, your data, don't go through our servers. Our servers just facilitate that secure connection so your devices can talk directly to each other. And so that's why you need an account. To do that, you'll need to go to account.mylio.com. And once you get there, there are a couple of different places here. I'm just going to point out right on the screen. There's a big download Mylio Photos button. There is, I believe, a download button here that's now at the top. And when you first log in, it's going to detect your operating system and take you to the page to download, whether you're on Mac, Windows, or so forth. So it's very easy to get the software. Once you do that, you're going to go ahead and find that in your downloads folder and install it. So on Windows, you're going to go to the downloads folder and look for the Mylio_x64 file right there. And if you're on Mac, you're going to go to look for the Mylio.dmg. Double click on that file and then just follow the instructions on screen to finish up the installation and then launch Mylio Photos. And today we're going to be looking at setting up Mylio Photos with your computer as your first device. Right now, this is the easiest way to get started with Mylio. You can start on a mobile device, but you're going to have the best experience today doing this on a computer. So let's go ahead and talk through some of these setup tips. So let's jump over to Mylio and walk through this together. So I have Mylio Photos installed on this computer. It's a brand new installation. And the first thing we're going to do is get a welcome screen and then be asked to sign into our account. So let me do that really quick. There we go. And now I'm ready to set up Mylio Photos on this computer. It's going to ask us a few questions about where your photos are located and how your photos are stored. And then we're going to get to the first question, which is setting up your Mylio library folder. So what is the Mylio library folder? Simply put, this is the default location for your future imports. You don't have to bring pictures into this folder. This is just going to be the location that's the default in case you don't choose another location. All right, so the next question is, should we create a new folder or select an existing folder? Well, for most people, I'm going to suggest creating a new folder. It's a really clean and easy way to get started. However, if you have an existing media library that's already organized exactly the way you want it, you can point Mylio directly to that folder and make that your Mylio library folder. The one, I'm not even going to say it's a downside or a caution, is that it will take some time if your library is large for Mylio to import all of that data. So it'll be a little while before you're actually able to get in and play with Mylio Photos. If you want to get in and bring a few things in at a time and kind of poke around and see what's what, creating that new folder is going to be an easier way to go. There's no wrong answer. It's just a matter of how quickly you want to be in there and actually integrate and working with your photos. So today I'm going to go ahead and choose to create a new folder, and we're going to go ahead and step forward and then choose the location. So that brings us to the next question. Where should this folder be located if we're creating a new folder? My recommendation is to choose a place that has a lot of available hard drive space. So for most people, that's going to be an external hard drive or a desktop computer that has a lot of available storage. Those make great places. If all you have is a laptop, you can do that, but it's going to, as you bring in pictures, it does have the potential to fill up your hard drive. You can change those settings later if you need to, but an external hard drive or a computer with a lot of storage space is the best option. So let's go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to go ahead and click on Change Location and choose my library folder location. Now I have a brand new empty external hard drive that I bought to use just for my pictures. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create a New Folder. I'm going to call this Mylio, but you can call it whatever you like, and choose Create. There we go. I now have a brand new folder and I can select Open, and I can verify the path here. So it's on my new hard drive, my Mylio folder, and that looks good. So that is setting up my Mylio right now. And I now have my Mylio library folder set to that folder. And I'm asked if I want to install the sample library. So that brings us to our next question is, do you want to install the sample library? If you're just wanting to poke around and see what's available in Mylio, I think it's a great thing to do. It's really easy to add and even easier to remove. It's a one-click install and uninstall, and it gives you an idea of what an organized library can look like. So let's do that right now so we can take a tour and see what's going on in Mylio Photos. So as this is happening, you're going to see up here in the activity monitor that something's going on. I'm going to go ahead and click through these blue boxes and get to done. And it's going to drop you in the dashboard, but where you're really going to want to go to have fun is the All Photos view. And this is going to show every photo in your Mylio Photos library. This is where you can start interacting with things and browsing and scrolling through every picture you've ever taken. The next place you're going to want to check out is the calendar view. I'm going to double click on that to go to the top level, and you'll see that all of my pictures are broken up by year. This puts us in the decade mode, so we're seeing everything in our life in pictures on a calendar. And I think this is probably one of the most fun ways to interact with photos in Mylio. So from here, if I want to browse, I can just double click into a particular year and see all of the pictures from that year. I can then scroll through that year, go into and see all the pictures from that particular month, and click on a date and see all of the pictures from that particular date. So it's a lot of fun to just go through and browse and see what you were doing at different points of your life. This is also a great way to find pictures if you're the kind of person who remembers things based on when they were taken. Some people are more numbers driven, some people are more event driven. There's a lot of different ways that different people think. And I'm one of those people who are number driven. So dates really make sense to me. So finding things based on date is super helpful. And this is organized for you. Just by bringing my pictures into Mylio, everything is automatically organized by date when you go into the calendar view. Now, if you're someone who likes to find things based on where they were taken, you're going to love the map. What this does is automatically pulls in all of your GPS data from all of your photos and shows them on the map. So you can scroll around the world, see all the places you've been, and kind of see some of the places that maybe you still need to visit. You can see there's a big open area here in the middle of the US, and maybe that needs to be the location for our next family vacation. So we can fill in some of these areas and have that map a little bit more full. If you have pictures that don't have GPS information, it's very, very easy to add. All you need to do is find some of those photos that don't have the information. And I'm going to scroll down here. You'll see that most of these images have this little GPS pin in the corner. And that means those have coordinates. So I can easily locate something that doesn't have coordinates by just looking at those annotations. So most of these do have pins, but here we go. Here's something that doesn't. And if I know that I took that, let's say scuba diving off the coast of California and Monterey, what I can do is go over to the map tab, and I can type in here at the top, or I can just click and drag. What I'm going to do is type in Monterey, California. Oops, let me try to type that again. Just wanting to overwrite what I'm typing. Let's do that. All right, Monterey, California. I can click on that and it pops me right there into Monterey. Now what I can do is grab this image out of the grid or even a series of images. So I can select multiple images, take those photos, drag them there. And I know that this was in the cove here off of Monterey. And I can go ahead and add a checkbox. And now those images have GPS information. So it's really that simple. We can then go back over to our map and we can zoom in here on the coast of California and see that these images were now captured off the coast of Monterey. So it's really very simple to add GPS information, even to photos that were taken with a camera that doesn't have built-in GPS tracking. All right, next cool area to explore is the people view. And this is where our facial recognition comes in. What's going to happen as you bring in your own photos is Mylio is going to scan every single photo, and if it detects a face, it's going to automatically place it into this untagged category. And what you can do is you can see all of the faces that Mylio has recognized. From here, I'm going to go to the More menu in the upper right and check Zoom to Face. And that's going to zoom it in onto the specific face that Mylio found in that image. And to tag individual images, I simply click on the question mark below the face, and I can start to type in a name. There we go, that's Colleen, and so forth. And now we can go here to this one. I know this is Rich. Awesome, there we go. And there is Rich, and so forth. So you can go down the list and start tagging individual faces. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, if that's great, but that's going to be pretty time consuming. Well, I have something else here for you that's going to make this even better. What you can do is go over to the right panel here and choose the batch tagging icon. And what this does is it groups together similar faces. And the more faces you tag, the smarter the AI becomes and does a better job at recognizing who's in a picture. So this is Colleen as a baby. You can see that it even knew that it was possibly her just by clicking on this. It's like, hey, I think this might be. So I'm going to go ahead and just click Colleen. Awesome. And now I can go up here to the top and be like, all right, I know this is Michael. Wonderful. And I just tagged all of those images. This is Michael when he's a bit older. And again, I clicked into the field. It suggested that Michael might be an option. And there we go. And I can keep doing this and naming people and going through these remarkably fast. So I'm going through and doing these in bulk rather than doing them one by one, which not only is a time saver, but it's actually kind of fun. I kind of made it a goal for myself in my personal library to get this untagged folder to disappear. I still have around 30 images that I need to research because they're old scanned family photos. And I need to check with my family to see who exactly is in some of those photos. But I've managed to tag over 100,000 photos just by going through. You don't have to do them all at once. You can do it for 10 minutes or so while you're standing in line somewhere, put it away, come back and do more later, and it'll just keep getting smarter and smarter. So it's a lot of fun. And if you're someone who likes to find photos based on who is in them, People View is going to be your friend. Now, the next two sections here, we have albums and folders. I'm going to go to folders next because this is a direct representation of the folders that exist on your hard drive. If you add a folder of images to Mylio Photos, this is where it's going to show up. And anything you do to your pictures in Mylio also affects what's happening on your hard drive. So it's a direct connection. Now, albums, on the other hand, are a way to organize, kind of like you can do playlists for music. You can have a particular picture in as many different albums as you like. And then albums can also be nested, meaning you can have multiple layers. So here we have some landscapes. Here we have some bird photos, and inside birds, we even have different types of birds. So there's many, many different ways that you can organize with albums, and it's incredibly flexible. I have to say albums are one of my favorites because it lets me group things together in ways that make sense to me. And my organization does not necessarily make sense to everybody else, but this is where I can really customize it for my needs. The next place to explore is the dashboard. And this is kind of your hub for controlling Mylio Photos. This is where you can take a look at the devices that you've added. You can get some suggestions for activities you can do, like finding duplicate photos and finding similar photos. This lets you clean up and declutter your library, add files, add devices, tag faces, and so forth. Another fun section is library stats. And this is where you can take a look at the different file types you have in your library. Again, places that you've been, you can see kind of a heat map here. People you've tagged, different cameras you've used, and so forth. So lots of great information to explore. Now, a few other things to be aware of. Up here in the upper right, we have our help menu, which we'll dive into more later, but it's good to know where that's at. We already clicked on our more menu once, but I also wanted to point out that this is where our main Mylio settings are located. So that's a good one to be aware of. And then down in the bottom right, excuse me, we have our actions menu. And this is going to have different things you can do to interact with the photos in your library. And you can also access the actions menu by right-clicking on an image anywhere in your library. And this menu is going to change depending on what view you're in and whether you're looking at a photo in the grid or a photo in full photo view. So it's very helpful to know where some of these things are. All right, let's go ahead and jump back to the presentation. And I think I covered everything here. Excellent. So we took a look at the views and the main settings and different menus. Wonderful. All right, so before we move on, Lori, are there any questions that I need to answer? Nothing?
No, not at this time.
All right, wonderful. Well, if you have questions as we're going through, make sure you pop those into the Q&A or to the chat, and we'll do the best we can to get those answered for you. All right, well, let's add some photos of our own to Mylio. And this is where things really start to get fun. I'm going to go ahead and back out of this really quick. And you can add photos now, or you can remove the sample library now. It's completely up to you. You can remove and add the sample library whenever you want. But to go ahead and start fresh, I want to remove this so I can just look at my own images. So I'm going to go to the Help menu and choose Remove Sample Library. It really is that easy. So give it just a moment. You can see up here in the Activities Monitor, things are happening, and now there's no media in my account. So now things are fresh, and I can go ahead and add my own photos. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Add Media button and choose to add media accessible from this device. Now I want to add some photos that are on an external hard drive, and I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, find that external hard drive called My Photos, and I have a folder of images that I want to go ahead and add to my Mylio Photos library. I'm going to go ahead and choose Open, and then I've got a few options here. So let's talk about those. When you're adding media from a computer or hard drive, you have the option to link, copy, or move. If you don't want Mylio to move those images, you want to keep them exactly where they're at because you know where to find them right now, go ahead and use the link folder option. That just tells Mylio to watch that folder from its current location. If you're looking to clean things up and consolidate, you may want to consider copy or move. And this will actually put those pictures into your Mylio library folder. If you're trying to consolidate and clean things up, move is a great option because it's going to actually physically move those images from one place into your Mylio library folder. Copy is a great option for things like camera memory cards and things like that, where you want to leave a copy on that particular piece of media for the time being and make sure everything gets copied over smoothly before you do anything else with that original. So a few different options here. Let me go ahead and jump back to the program. In this instance, I want to leave those photos exactly where they are. So I'm going to choose Link Them and click Link Now. And it'll take a moment for Mylio to start populating my All Photos view. If we want to see what's going on, you can always click up into the Activity Monitor or open the Sync panel and then expand Devices and Activity. And it's going to tell you what's happening with Mylio Photos. So you might not see anything popping up on the screen yet, but you can see it is working. There we go. So now it's starting to build those thumbnails. I'm going to be able to see those images start popping up. And now we can start interacting with our photos. So adding photos really is that simple. You just select the folder on your hard drive that you want to pull in, tell Mylio where it's located, and here we go. Now we have some images that we can work with of our own. Now, there's a lot of different ways that you can add media to Mylio. Another one of my favorites is to bring in photos directly from your smartphone. So if you're an iPhone or Android user, it's very easy. All you have to do is install Mylio Photos on that smartphone. If you're an iPhone user, go to the Apple App Store. If you're an Android user, go to the Google Play Store. Download the app, it's free, and then log in with your Mylio account, email, and password. That's going to tell Mylio that you can start syncing between your computer and your phone, and it's going to create that secure connection that we talked about earlier. As part of that process, you'll want to grant access to your camera roll or media library, so Mylio can then automatically import those pictures from your camera or from your phone directly into your Mylio Photos library. We also have the option to download and back up photos from online services. So currently we support Facebook, Instagram, Flickr, and Google Photos. And these are really fun because it lets you discover pictures you probably forgot about. I know for myself, I was really reluctant to bring in my Instagram pictures, but I'm so glad that I did. And the reason for that is there's pictures from my early days on that platform that weren't saved anywhere else. I don't know if you remember, if you were like an early adopter of Instagram, it used to be you took the pictures from within that app, They automatically publish to Instagram, and they never save to your camera roll, and they're really low resolution, but they were fun snapshots that you took. And there's quite possibly pictures of your family, of your kids, of other important moments of your life that are way back there in your feed that you don't have anywhere else. So I encourage you to go ahead and go to these different services if you've used them in the past, pull those images in, because you're probably going to find some things that you'd forgotten about and are actually very precious. It's really a lot of fun as you go through and do that. Now let's go ahead and talk about adding devices. There's a couple of different things that people get confused about, and one of them is the difference between adding media and adding devices. So let's take a look at something really quick. We've added some media to our Mylio library, and in the process, that added another device. So when we first set this up, our first device was the computer. We then added the hard drive where we have our Mylio library folder, so that added another device. And then we added a folder from another image that had media, and it added yet another device. So Mylio tracks these different devices because you have media on them or you're saving media to them. So there's really two different kinds of devices that you need to be aware of with Mylio. And this is just more for general knowledge, not that you have to do anything with this knowledge, but you have your viewing devices like your computer, your tablet, and your smartphone. And then you have storage devices, which are places where you want to store media, like those external hard drives, network attached storage. And you can even consider a desktop computer with a lot of storage space as one of those storage devices. So just some general information on the differences between adding devices and adding media. If you want to add pictures to your Mylio Photo Library and they're on a different hard drive, you're going to want to use this plus button. If you're wanting to add a new hard drive that you want Mylio to back up to, that's when you're going to want to add a new device. So to do that, you're going to go over to Dashboard and Devices and choose Add Here. But just by adding a device here, it does not mean that it's going to automatically import any media on there. So if you have media on that device you want brought into your library, use the Add Media button up here. Hope that makes sense, because I know that's a place that a lot of people stumble when they first get started with Mylio Photos. All right. And I really do encourage you to add all of your devices. Mylio Photos will seamlessly talk to and sync between Windows, Mac, Android, and iOS. That means if you have a Windows computer, an iPhone, and an Android tablet, all of those different devices can have Mylio Photos running and let you view and explore your photos seamlessly on all of those different devices. And they talk to each other. It's quite a big change from other things like, say, Apple Photos, where you have to have an all Apple household for those things to sometimes work. Mylio takes that barrier away and lets you have full access to all of your images from a variety of different platforms. So download, have fun. A paid Mylio account lets you have unlimited photos and unlimited devices. So I encourage you to take advantage of that. All right, any questions that have popped up?
There is actually. Deborah was asking, can you download and add from Amazon Photos?
So we don't have a built-in tool for downloading from Amazon Photos. They're kind of a closed ecosystem and they don't make it very easy, unfortunately. But what you can do is go to Amazon Photos, select the images that you want to download, and create your own download. Once those are on your hard drive, you can then import those into Mylio Photos using that Add Media button. So it's a little bit more work than some of the other options, but it is doable. All right.
And then Chuck just jumped in here. Do you recommend saving JPEG and RAW files?
So Chuck, if you shoot JPEG plus RAW, you can bring all of those into Mylio Photos. Mylio will automatically stack your RAW and JPEG images together, so you're not seeing both the JPEG and RAW next to each other. It's actually an option you can set, so you can tell it to see separately, or you can see them stacked. And I recommend if you shoot JPEG plus RAW, bring that all in. I'm the kind of person who likes to save my RAW images over the JPEGs, but the JPEGs, if you like the JPEG better, keep both, because you can always go back and re-edit the RAW as much as you want. You're going to be a little bit more limited with the JPEG. So I personally like to save both. All right.
Great. Catherine's got a question. Does any metadata added to photos with Mylio stay with the photos when they are exported out of Mylio?
Great question. And yes, it does. So let me jump back over to the program here really quick And let's do that. So let's go to all photos, and I'm going to grab this image here, and let's take a look at our info. So this is the metadata that I have currently with this image. It's a 6D, it's a JPEG. Here's the timestamp, the title, the caption. I have some keywords and so forth. So when I go to export this image, I'm going to go to the share button, and let's just go down to export, and you'll see that we have a lot of different options here. So to manage the metadata that goes with your image, you either have the option to do safe share or select the metadata. So safe share automatically strips the metadata. And the reason that's the default is Mylio is very privacy minded, and we put that first and foremost. So if you're sharing pictures of your friends and family, or specifically of your kids, let's say playing sports at the place that they're at every weekend, you might not want to share that location, that GPS information from your phone, that face tag you've added, all of that information about your kid. You don't want to put that necessarily out on social media. So what Safe Share does is it removes all of that information from the embedded photo. Now, if you do want to control some of that and keep some of it with your photo, let's say you're a photographer who wants to have your copyright embedded. You want to have maybe your ownership and some of that information you do want to keep. Well, here under metadata, once you uncheck Safe Share, you can click on this and then choose which information you want to have as part of that export. For me, what I usually do is I keep my IPTC and my copyright, and sometimes I'll keep my caption and keywords. That's completely personal. EXIF I think is totally fine. Ratings is up to you. Though personally, I typically keep people and places unchecked. That's just a personal preference, but you have full control on what metadata is exported with your photos. All right, any other questions? Those are great questions.
They are great questions. It looks like no more questions at the moment.
All right. Well, we have a lot of resources for you if you want to dig in and learn more. First off, all of the links that are on the left-hand side of the page, you can grab that QR code with your phone really quick and grab that, and then it'll take you straight to a web page with all of those links. So you don't have to write them all down. But to give you a quick tour here, we have our in-app help menu, which we mentioned earlier. So let's go ahead and take a look at that now. So up in the upper right corner, the question mark with the circle will open our help menu. The first option here is our how-to guide. And if I click that, that's going to bring up a browser with our user manual. So this is a document that has just about all of the information you could ever need to know about using Mylio Photos. It's not necessarily something that you're going to want to go read cover to cover, because not necessarily everything here is going to be important to you or apply to you, but it's here if you need it. It is fully searchable. So if you come across a term in the software that you're not sure what it means, pop it into search. Each one of these sections here on the right is a chapter with many subchapters. So you can just open and close these arrows to see more topics that are included. And then if you're the kind of person who likes to work offline, you can always download the PDF and have that available to you no matter where you're at, offline, no internet, and go ahead and search that way. All right. The next thing I want to point out is to join our community. If you haven't done this already, I do highly recommend it. There's a lot of great information here, and it's a lot of fun. So what you would do here is click on join and follow the steps on the screen. But for now, to just poke around, we can click explore, and I'll show you some of the highlights. So over on the left-hand side is our events tab. And this is where you're going to find all of the upcoming things we have planned for our users. So we have more getting started webinars. We have coffee breaks every week, which are focused in on specific topics. We often bring in guests, and they're a lot of fun. They're very informal. Everybody can have their camera on if they want to. And it's more of a conversation and a discussion more than a presentation. We also list other in-person things that we're doing, like conferences we're going to be at and so forth. So lots to explore there. We also have a full-length course called Mylio Photos Fundamentals. This is free for our members. All you have to do is join the community, and then you can go in here and take this course. And it has different segments that you can watch and view at your own pace. And you can jump around. If there's things that don't necessarily interest you, you can skip it and go on to the next section. We also have our quick start videos. Here's where you can find the recordings for the Getting Started webinar. You can see we are live right now. And you can watch our most recent recording here. We have other tutorials, quick tips. Here's the recordings for our coffee breaks, if you want to take a look at those. And then if you go down to groups, this is the social aspect of our community. And we have a lot of different photographic genres here. You can join as many of these as you want. You can share photos, you can ask questions, have discussions about different types of photography, and increase your creativity. So it's a lot of fun, and I highly recommend joining the community. All right, so here's a link also to that fundamentals course and our getting started videos. If you need some help from our support team, this is if the software is crashing or something is not behaving the way that you think it should, I encourage you to reach out to our support team directly. And this is the best way to reach them, because this lets them know what account you're coming from, and they can see a few things about your account to help them troubleshoot. If you want to play with the sample library, you can always add it back at any time. And again, remove it here from the help menu. All right, let's go ahead and jump back over to the presentation here. Give you one more chance to grab that QR code. And then we're going to go ahead and open up here for general questions. So it looks like, Chuck, you've got a question. Let me take a second here to read this one. So working with historical photos, awesome. Editing EXIF, great. All right. So how many accounts would you need? Right now you can have, let's see here, an album. Let me read this one more time. Now, if you want to be able to have all of these people have access, if you put, this is a tough one. So I'm going to clue you into something that we have coming. What I hope it's going to be later on this year is going to be family sharing. And I think that's going to be the solution to what you're looking for. Right now, you can add as many devices as you want, and you can add your family members' devices. However, that means that they're going to have access to your entire library, not just those historical photos. So there are solutions coming for sharing specific things in the future, but we don't have that at this moment for sharing just segments of your library. But as far as creating albums for each family member and for the kids, you can certainly go ahead and get that framework started in Mylio Photos today. And then later on, you'll be able to share those albums with the specific people. So I hope that helps. Any other questions? All right. Well, I want to thank you all for joining us today. It's been a lot of fun, and you guys have come to us with some wonderful questions. Keep them coming. I hope to see you in the community. And my last parting words of advice here is, I know Mylio Photos is a big program. There's a lot going on there. Don't feel like you need to learn it all overnight. Zero in on the areas that make the most sense to you. If you like finding things based on when they were taken, dig in and have fun with the calendar. If your focus is on finding things based on who is in them, you're going to love People View. So dig into those individual areas a little bit more. You don't have to know everything all at once to get enjoyment and value out of Mylio Photos. And as you go along, you're going to learn more about what the program does, but you don't have to know it all at the beginning. So baby steps, enjoy it. They're your memories. They're the best parts of your history. So I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this app. I want to wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you at the next webinar. It looks like there's one more question here. Can comments be added to each photo, such as location and the person? So you can add, let me jump back over here. So to each image, let's go ahead and pretend that there was a picture in here. I could go ahead and add a face tag. I can turn on the face tagging here, and it'll scan to see if there's a face, and I could then tag that face. Or I can tap and hold, and I can create a manual tag. So you can tag any image that way, and that information is saved into the metadata. And then as far as tagging a place, right now this image does not have GPS information, but this was taken in Shenandoah National Park. So I can add that information here by going into the map. And let's see here. Let me try that again. And let's see here. Let's just do that first one. And that's going to put me in that general area. And then I can grab this image and just drag it onto the map. And now I've added GPS information to that image. So you can add those specific tags easily. If you want to add just some general notes, right now the best option is to add them here in the caption field, and that'll be saved in the metadata as well. All right. Any other last minute questions? Okay. Well, thank you again for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.